Shall we just jump right into the LessWrong posts then?
Yeah. First LessWrong post was Rationality and the English Language.
And you know what? I'll save my comment until afterwards.
Okay. This was about how somebody had told Eliezer that his writing reminded them of Politics in the English Language by George Orwell, which he was honored by because he then goes on to say why he really loved Orwell's writing and why it's rationalist.
Yeah.
Or at least it's trying to serve the same purpose that rationalist writing is, of pointing out where there are like biases, but in this case he was talking about the way that like you use the written word can be used to manipulate.
Orwell was very much about, the whole how you can manipulate language to manipulate people. Because, I mean, ultimately, I've always considered humans to be... The main thing that makes us different is that we run on language, where I don't think any of the other animals do. And, if we didn't have language, would we even be human?
We would not.
I kind of don't think we would, because that's like where all your consciousness comes from, right? It's the stream of thought of inspecting yourself through the filter of language.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be recognizably human. I'm trying to imagine, like, if we just didn't talk, and that we had other ways to communicate, gestures or something, if we still managed to somehow be social animals, it'd be so different. Our inner lives would be changed. Like, some people report to me, because I've asked about this back when I was way more into, philosophy of consciousness, that they just think in wordless concepts. I don't think
Phoenix
they do.
says that too, and I'm just like, I
don't believe you.
I believe, I have,
I was just
intuitions.
I don't think that way. I have a very hard time, actually. Because
how do you crystallize a thought? I have lots of things that come up as wordless intuitions or nudges or, and a lot of things happen automatically that don't get assigned a word because there doesn't need to be, or there's no time.
I feel like I don't understand the stuff going on in my head unless I translate it into words.
That's exactly it, yeah.
I think, I don't know if you guys have read Peter Watt's Blind Sight, but I get the feeling that both the aliens and the vampires in that novel are basically that. They're as intelligent as humans, but they don't have a, language self-reflective center, and that is why they are not conscious.
Right.
And so I think that's they can still use language, but they don't think in language, and that is why they're like pee zombies, and we're not.
It's like GPT-4.
Yeah.
They talk about that a lot in meditation, where there's they talk about the person saying words and the person hearing the voice saying the words.
Yeah.
Which is really weird when you start thinking about it, but that's the process is going on in our head. That's what makes us conscious, probably.
Yeah.
Both the speaker and the listener.
So we have gotten off topic, or off track. Okay. Oh no, we're still on topic. You're right. This was a good tangent.
We are keeping our eye on the ball here, people. Don't sweat it.
Yeah. The thing that I think this is Eliezer making this point, but by way of Orwell's writing, he says that if you wish to imprison people for years without a trial, you must think of some other way to say it than I'm going to imprison Mr. Jennings for years without trial. You must muddy the listener's thinking, prevent clear images from outraging conscience. You say unreliable elements were subjected to an alternative justice process.
Which he was talking about the use of the passive voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't remember having read this sequence before, because this is awesome, but...
This is absolutely fantastic.
He says this sentence: writers are told to avoid the usage of the passive voice. And then, and he's like, and then if you're like me, that sentence kind of makes you scream on the inside a little. And...
Because told by whom?
Yeah, and then, and if you're not a writer, or, aren't sure why that sentence is so wrong... there's as a writer, if you're writing fiction or even nonfiction, I think articles, you're told to use the active voice, which is not writers are told to, but it's I am telling you, writer, or whatever.
That's one of the biggest tells between a amateur writer and someone who's been doing it for a while, is how often they slip into passive voice.
Yeah, but then, and this kind of blew my mind because I hadn't ever thought about it this way, but it's journal articles are often written in passive voice. Pardon me, some scientists write their journal articles in passive voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading as many journal articles as I have, I never really picked up on why they were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like this is the format. And I was like, oh, that's the format of science because they want to leave the data. And it sounds so much less professional to say, I gave each college student a bottle of 20 Progenitivorics and told them to take one every night until they were gone.
Yeah.
It sounds more authoritative to say the subjects were administered Progenitivorivox.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's the main point is that passive voice removes the actor, leaving only the acted upon. And that just sounds so much more authoritative.
I really want
this
to...
is just the state of nature. It just happens.
I want to rewrite, or maybe like train an AI to just like find and replace, but like I want to see a journal article now written in like active voice where I feel like it would just sound really fun. And then I told the subjects to spin around 3 times, and Joe, because he's an idiot, only turned around 2 times, and I was like...
This ties nicely into the difference between like learning from something and experiencing something, right? Mm-hmm. And I like this line that I'm glad was pulled out by whoever put the notes together. I'm assuming Inyash, where it says nonfiction conveys knowledge, fiction conveys experience, and that is like the takeaway. And the fun thing is that you can get both. Like you can learn from fiction. You can learn real things, but it's told in a story that lets you experience the knowledge or the process itself.
In a way, it's like all books are teaching you something because you're experiencing things from the perspective of the characters.
I know he wrote in one of the author's posts, maybe it was a comment on a Reddit instead. I think it was an author's note though. Eliezer wrote that was part of the reason he wrote HPMOR, was that so people would have the experience of using rationality rather than just, reading about how it could be done.
Yeah,
that's my favorite genre of book also. Basically rat fic, but like the thing where it teaches you something. Like it's not only I'm enjoying the shit out of watching this assassin try to sneak around this diplomat's house to kill him with a magic sword. But it's like you're also learning diplomacy as like the assassin is learning diplomacy. And like that's the author's purpose of writing the book too, not just because I wanted to tell a fun story about an assassin, but also I want to teach people about this cool thing.
Yeah, I think that the inception and creation of Methods of Rationality is one of like my favorite just things that have happened. Because it had so many purposes to it, and I think it hit all of them.
Yeah, the fact that there was the like term rationalist fiction that was coined now, and now it can be a genre that people can sort of aim at is like my favorite thing that has happened in literature in my lifetime. Right.
Well, it's
basically, if I look back at all of my favorite books, and I have done this, and like I did a critical analysis of all my childhood favorite books because I do that for fun sometimes. They're all rat fic for kids, or not, or for adults. But
watching people figure out problems is fun.
Yeah.
And when you get to experience figuring out the problem with them, it's extra fun. That's what I really liked about the BBC's take on Sherlock, as opposed to like the Robert Downey Jr. movie.
Yeah.
Both great actors, both great approaches. But like what I liked about the BBC one was that you get the clues and you get to try and solve it with him, rather than just like at the end, Sherlock tells you that this smelled like this, and that guy's the mud on his pant leg indicated that. It's like, well, I didn't see that. Yeah,
you get to see his like. It's a totally different genre, I think, where basically you're watching a superhero show if you're watching the Downey Holmes, because you just see somebody who's smart and uses smartness like a superpower, where they're just, I will apply smartness.
And he whips it all out at the end. You see him at some point like taste the gravel on like this exploded grave or something, but you don't know what it tastes like. You don't get the information. In the BBC version, it puts text across the screen when he's looking at like the woman's wedding ring, and
it
he looks
shows
at
you
it,
what he's looking at, and then like a bunch of
exactly the inside is clean, indicating that she takes it off a bunch, and like little things like that. So you get the data too.
I heard it got worse as it went along, though.
It did.
Okay.
Stop at the end of season 2.
Okay, that is where I actually stopped.
Yeah,
because they started season 3, and I was like, this doesn't feel as good.
It ended well on season 2.
Yeah. That's like. I love Batman, but there's things about Batman that are just ridiculous. One of them is this, he's actually the world's greatest detective. Mm-hmm. That was like his original title, and they pushed that a lot more. Mm-hmm. Now he's more like rich guy that just buys mech suits. But it would always be this like ridiculous plot armor thing that they would like pull out at the end where it wasn't like, I deduced that because I like...
And because
I wrote a computer program that analyzed your thing, and just like, it's just like it's bullshit. They're just pulling like it's not anything you could reproduce.
And because I knew this about you, I knew that you were going to use this attack, which is why I'm wearing this special attack repellent.
I'm recording We Want More in a couple days, and I love after like the coup at Hogwarts, Draco becomes like, he's just obsessed with like acting like a Sherlockian detective, and so he brings in like all the stack of books, and it's like, well, wait. General Granger read all of those in 2 weeks, and he's like, well, no, all we know is that she checked them out. Actually, all we observed is that the ledger says that she checked them out. And then later on, and it's like, how'd you come to discover this, Malfoy? I deduced it from evidence. He's just having, like, he's just saying the words, but like, that's not an answer. He's just having a good time with it. Or at least I'm having a good time with him having his whatever kind of time he's having with it. So
Well, it's kind of like when they were also pretending to be like, well, I don't know how much Draco was pretending, but they were pretending to be like evil generals, and like, didn't Harry have like a lawn chair that was like sprayed with black spray paint and covered in glitter?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a lawn chair, but it was definitely a chair that he heavily modified.
And he had like a hood over his head, and he was like talking like.
Yeah, he would make people quote things from the Jabberwock as part of their passcodes.
Like, I have deduced something, General Malfoy. He's like, especially imagining an 11-year-old kid like with like a Halloween cloak,
doing his best Palpatine.
Yeah, that was who I was trying to think of, Palpatine. Anyway, do we have more to say about this one?
All of that's relevant because the experience of enjoying fiction, you get to learn stuff and experience it at the same time. See, it all comes back home. I'm really good now at like driving segues straight back to the topic, pretending like it was on purpose.
Nice,
because we're 60% segues and we want more. So,
he brings us along to why the writing is important again, because the passive voice sounds authoritative. It's not like it's not like someone did something else to people. It just like happened, and when things just happen, it feels inevitable. It feels like a force of nature. It's not like something that someone specifically did for a goal. So people are much more likely to accept it. And he says, in this quote that I pulled, "A writer knows that readers will not stop for a minute to think," which actually is a thing that comes up quite a bit with you and Brian when you talk about the We Want More podcast. When you're like, yeah, when I first read this, I just kept reading and going through it. Like, I didn't stop after every couple chapters and think and record for a number of hours.
That is not the usual process of consuming fiction or consuming anything.
Yeah.
So that's
you just keep reading.
That's why I like writing critical analyses for fun. Like, I wasn't joking about that because I do that with everything. I mean, if there's something I'm really into, I'm just like, next chapter, more, give me more. And you see this. That's why I love.
You're like, oh my god, it's 3 a.m. and I got to work in 4 hours.
Yeah, but then like, but there's stuff even hidden in there, even though you're enjoying the hell out of it, but you're skimming over so much of it. And when you go back and like, you figure out why you liked it. It's so satisfying.
Yeah. There's a whole. You know what? That's critical reading theory. I'm not going to get into that.
I was just going to say there's a.
The medium is the message, and
maybe let's not launch into.
But as he was saying, to complete the quote, "A writer knows the reader will not stop for a minute to think. A fictional experience is a continuous stream of first impressions." He continues on. I truncated this a bit to make the claim that often steel manning leads to losing track of the first impression, what the audience sees or feels, which is to say that like people will go back and analyze what someone has said and be like, well, I mean, maybe he meant this, and it is technically true in this sense and all these other things, and maybe all that is true. And we see this especially, in my opinion, a lot during Trump's speeches.
I was going to say in politics generally.
Yeah, where like Trump says something, and afterwards you're like, well, technically he didn't say that that neo-Nazis are great and he loves white supremacists, right? When someone says, do you denounce them? Sure. Yeah, sure, why not? But like, that's not that's not the first impression. When you're just listening to the stream of consciousness that comes out of his mouth, what you feel is him saying, whatever, sure, whatever. Like, it's, like this, the white nationalism is not a big deal to him, as opposed to, yes, he's agreeing that he denounces them. And that is kind of the whole purpose of using these sort of manipulative language to cloak the actual impression that is conveyed behind the sort of technical legitimacy.
In particular, though, I just lost my. Okay, earlier you were saying that like passive voice creates a distant feeling of authoritativeness, and in particular, Eliezer was talking about Orwell's writing because it was authoritarianism that he was trying to. He was trying to point out all of the tactics that the authoritarian or the totalitarian governments were using by using extremely simple language. And Orwell was trying to prove that if you took Trump's rambling and actually like truncated each one to like a basic summary of what he had just said in simple language rather than all the meandering, you'd be like, wait a minute.
My funny thing on Trump is like, whatever, a week or two ago, it's hard to say because however many 50 news cycles that was, but like he said something along, someone asked him like, what, QAnon, and is a big fan of yours, what do you have to say about that? And he's like, well, I don't know who they are, but I hear they like me, so whatever. Like, on the one hand, that's a very to someone who believes in dog whistling, that's a very transparent dog whistle that like, oh yes, I support all this and stuff. I never want to rule out the fact that he literally is just that stupid and that out of touch. Like, that to me is a much more plausible explanation.
Oh, that's entirely what I've thought. Like,
I think that it's a common interpretation though that he's
stupid
giving
like a fox.
Or that he's he's aware of everything and that he's playing a convoluted language game. Like, I don't think he's playing a game. I think he's just rampaging through the field, not knowing what sport he's in. Right?
I think a lot of people don't know who QAnon is or what they're about.
But the president should. At this
like
point,
a weird fringe cult.
But they're weird. Here's another one. When he was endorsed by David Duke, the head of the KKK, he's like, I've never met the guy. I don't know who he is. Like,
didn't he like really denounce him just the next day?
I don't remember.
He really should have done it the same day, though.
Well, Trump he wasn't in politics with a capital P before he was elected.
That's true.
So
he was in politics to get viewers.
And once he got in politics, he didn't suddenly start reading up on anything of note there. He just continued along.
But like, if you don't know who the KKK are, it's like you don't get an excuse for being out of touch. Like, your dad was in the KKK. Like,
was his dad in the KKK?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
He was arrested and everything.
Trump's dad?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So like, you don't get to pretend like you've never heard of it. I mean, he also said he didn't know the flu could kill people, even though the Spanish flu killed his grandfather. Like, this substantiates my running hypothesis that he really is just that dumb. Okay. Like, this isn't a clever language game.
It looks like dementia to me.
It does to me, but without even armchair diagnosing him, I can at least say confidently that he seems stupid as hell. So anyway, we're getting away
politics again.
But there's a Mind Killer podcast.
Sorry to our Trump supporter listeners.
If you want to have your mind killed with politics, that podcast is also available.
That's right. Check out the Mind Killers. But this ties to, and this is why it all kind of came up, is that meaning doesn't excuse impact. It doesn't matter what you meant. It matters what people took from it.
Yeah.
And so,
anyone who's skilled at communicating will know.
Right. And so, this post is in the context of like writing deliberately. But even if you're just saying things in front of a TV, like it doesn't exactly matter what you meant, because if everyone takes the wrong thing from it, well, then you said the wrong thing. You didn't convey the message you're trying to convey.
I do think that's part of his genius. But his words don't mean anything. You don't even have to look at what the words are, but the impact always is what he wants to be.
I think he's stumbled upon a good strategy by complete accident, like just by being dumb.
Yeah.
People think that he's so dumb that he must be up to something. Right. No one's possibly that dumb. He's so smart.
It's fifth dimensional chess.
Eliezer ends the post with, I don't care what rational interpretation you can construct for an applause like AI should be developed through democratic processes. That cannot excuse its irrational impact of signaling the audience to applaud, not to mention its cloudy, question-begging vagueness.
And can we switch it and be like, democratic processes should develop AI?
Right.
It's all you have to do to be like, if you simplify it, does it still make sense and make you want to applaud, or do you go wait, what?
Hold up a minute.
Which is really why I just stopped for a second. I was like, right.
Yeah. You're wait, what does that even mean? How does a democratic process create an AI? What, by voting for
Yeah. There was a great episode of The Orville like this. They come across basically a parallel Earth, but everything runs on 100% direct democracy. Literally everything. And so,
I remember that.
And they're all so.
Wait, can you?
Hump the statue or
yeah.
something?
So he violates a statue in a joking way, and it's posted to social media, and everyone's voting for him to go to prison. And just everyone on their app or on their touchscreen TV, whatever, they see the news clip and they just click the red X or the green check mark, and that's how justice is decided in this culture.
Just for a sec, could you tell me were there other hilarious things in this book that were controlled by democratic process?
This was Seth MacFarlane's Star Trek TV show called The Orville.
Okay.
Yeah. No, the book is a modern day detective story that I was plugging earlier. Tana French is in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's different.
No, I was saying the world you were just describing, where you were saying everything is run on democratic process.
It was a single 45-minute episode.
Oh, okay.
of
So
the
that
police
was
show.
the only
Yeah.
incidence of that.
I mean-
dang, because I was trying to imagine. I was like, oh man, if there's like a whole book about this.
That would be fun. I don't know if it was everything like coffee prices and stuff, but it was at least every matter of legal stuff.
Yeah.
And so like your legal defense was going on an apology tour.
Right.
It wasn't explaining that you were actually, innocent.
It's creepy because that's kind of how like a lot of things are done on Twitter.
Yep.
That is why Twitter is the worst thing in the
Like
world.
getting canceled.
Yeah,
And
Twitter
people being able to basically cast tweets as votes as to whether you're canceled or uncanceled.
Twitter is a good example of this democracy thing, except for the fact that you don't need a majority vote to win on Twitter, whereas you would
Well,
in
no, you
this
kind of do.
parallel
I
Earth.
mean, you have to be able to sway the.
You only need 60 angry people to.
Yeah,
you
but I
know-
mean, they have to be able to sway the opinions of all the other people that they.
or to get them to shut up. Yeah, but that's a good point. They have to at least not shut up everyone else, or not. They have to succeed in not
Like it
having
has to
everyone
be
else
too
go against them.
embarrassing to like this person.
Yeah.
If someone said, or like I don't know, some actor said something racist, and then like, and even if you don't think that he said something racist, if all of your friends do, you can't defend him. You can't watch his movies or whatever.
Which we'll get into our topic later on.
And speaking
Yeah.
of how Twitter's the worst, this brings us to our next post: human evil and muddled thinking.
You're so good at segues.
I can't think of
now.
a better segue. It's like that was on purpose.
I gotta say, this post is not like one of the famous posts that people talk about a lot. And after having reread it, I don't know why not.
I keep thinking that about a bunch of the sequences we're reading, though, where I'm like, why isn't this one more popular? And I'm like, oh, I guess I did that thing of reading them all really fast.
Okay. I think this one, combined with the one just before it as a setup,
Although I don't remember
really
either
should
of
probably be
these.
one of the foundational ones, and I'm kind of surprised it's not. But
I don't even remember either of these. Were they even included in AI to Zombies?
They were. That's how I listened to them on the drive over.
Maybe I just.
It's annoying because
I
my
missed it
podcatcher doesn't
somehow,
like
or-
let me search for episode titles. So I have to just scroll through them because it's not in order as it is on the sequences.
Yeah.
I just have to find them. These two happen to be next to each other in the book, but it was still scrolling through 300
Oh man.
posts or whatever. But yeah.
okay.
Anyway, human evil and muddled thinking intertwine like conjugate strands of DNA.
Nice.
And then Orwell, political speech and writing are largely in defense of the indefensible. If you simplify English, you are freed from the worst follies of orthodoxy. You cannot speak any of the necessary dialects. When you make stupid remarks, its stupidity will be obvious, even to yourself.
And that's kind of pointing out that if you take everything that was said in the last post about how these, passive voice and other tricks are used to hide the actual evil of things, if you can strip all that sort of, muddling of words out, it
Yeah.
becomes obvious what is actually being done, that Mr. Johnson is being thrown in jail forever without due process, without
There's
a trial.
actually a list. It says, thus political language has to consist largely of euphemism, question begging, and sheer cloudy vagueness. So that's like the three categories of things that you have to strip out specifically.
And Eliezer says, right after this quote, "This is the heart of overcoming bias." That you cannot speak any of the necessary dialects, and when you make a stupid remark, its stupidity will be obvious even to yourself. And that was like,
That should be on a t-shirt.
it should really, yeah. And on the back of the t-shirt, "This is the heart of overcoming bias." And also at the time, overcoming bias is in italics. LessWrong was still hosted on the Overcoming Bias blog. So that is why, he nowadays this would be translated as "This is the heart of LessWrong."
Well, and overcoming bias is also like a verb.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it works both ways.
But I mean,
does.
it's capitalized and in italics.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think next time if like somebody's like, "What's rationality?" I'm gonna be like, "What do you guys do?" Like, "Oh, we make our stupidity obvious even to ourselves."
Yeah,
It's a good tagline.
it is.
Like I
Thank
feel
you
like
for
I
that.
should
That's
put
actually
that.
perfect.
We should make business cards that say that. Like pass them out.
We make stupidity obvious even to ourselves.
Like next time we're having a meetup somewhere, it's like, who are you guys? What are you doing? We pass out the business cards.
Nice.
The even to ourselves modifier is like the most important part because we make stupidity obvious is the punchline of every group that hates another group, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We point out how dumb you are,
Yeah.
but it's like, no, we point out how dumb we are, and we strive to do better. Yeah.
So he says, "Evil sneaks hidden through the unlit shadows of the mind. For perpetrators of evil to avoid its natural opposition, the revulsion must remain latent. Clarity must be avoided at any cost.
I feel like you chose today's topic with the intention of reading it after reading these two posts.
I did not.
It ties in so perfectly.
It does.
really
It
does.
was the most amazing coincidence, and I'm so happy.
So many things seem to be falling into place this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
It's almost like we should try to pick topics in the future that way.
Right.
It's a lot of work, though.
That sounds like planning. Anyway, so I'm curious if Tyler Cohen's updated on this, or if this is if there's a steel man of it. But apparently, according to the post, Tyler Cohen apparently feels that overcoming bias is just as biased as bias. I view Robin's blog as exemplifying bias, and indeed showing that bias can be very useful.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, he points out his incredulity with that statement in the post, but I still don't quite know what that means. I know what it means, but I don't quite know how someone can say that without
Well, I guess sometimes bias can be useful. The whole point of religion is to tie groups together in pursuit in attacking a common enemy.
That does totally
And
tie
that can
into
give you
our
a lot of
topic.
bias, but it's very useful.
Because that's what we are going to get into in the
Yes,
main
it
topic,
is.
about when bias can be useful.
But I also hear similar things about people say that about logic or science. They're like, well, logic and rationality are constructs of Western imperialism.
Yeah.
And
science was done almost exclusively by rich white guys.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's like, okay, sure, but how fast does a bowling ball drop when you drop it off a building?
that's racist, Stephen. How dare you?
Wouldn't it be a remarkable fact of nature that if you're a black trans woman, it fell at 5 meters per second when you dropped a bowling ball? If we lived in that universe where depending on who you were changed what happened, that would be insane.
Dude, we would have to start paying people to become black trans women so that we could get things into orbit cheaper.
That's what I was going to say. Space travel would be so much cheaper.
Jeez. Anyway.
I didn't mean to I'm not picking on a group. I'm just saying that
No,
I'm picking the opposite of Isaac Newton, right?
I'm being
And-
upset about this because there is evidence that late transitioning trans women have average 130 IQ.
Oh.
And science shows this, but social justice means we can't talk about it. Because everybody's equal.
Yes.
I've heard that from people that there's no
Have you
difference
seen
between
how
people.
many what's Chelsea Manning no, god damn it, I'm trying to think of basically if you think of who are I don't know, what's the primary profession you see a lot of trans women in? It's probably engineering, programming, mathematics.
I would say that, but I also have a very skewed group selection bias thing. So, most of the people that I know are programmers. And
The
engineers.
LessWrong community is it very largely overrepresents educated white men, but also LGBT, specifically trans women.
Has
And somehow we're still
3
transphobic
to 4
community.
times the rate of trans women as the general population, right?
I think more.
More than that.
I'm not really sure. I'd have to see this, the latest SSC numbers, but I
mean, even 3 to 4 times more is a lot.
it suggests to me that we're not trans exclusive.
Right.
But if you're coming under, I'm still annoyed with the charge that that's the case. But that's not what we're
is
here
that
to
a
talk
charge?
about. Absolutely.
That rationalism or that rationalists in general?
Yeah.
Oh no, we're equated with the alt-right if it's the SJWs, or if it's the conservatives the other way around.
Does that
You know
okay.
how people have to paint their political enemies as
as evil as possible?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all being in the same bucket. So
or endorsing all of the same thing. Why do you care about gun control and abortion?
Right, so if Dave Rubin doesn't like social justice warriors and some rationalists don't like social justice warriors, well, then they're both obviously opposed and thus
And they also
obviously
hate
on the exact
feminism.
same side. Right. And so they all have to endorse all of each other's opinions because...
It's like people don't realize there's different reasons people can hate you.
Or
People are really confused by my politics and a lot of other rational, where they're that they assume that if you're a Democrat, then you don't that you hate guns and are pro-abortion and anti-capitalist, and it's no, I have different opinions about each of these things.
Yeah.
I don't just pick an affiliation and then that decides my opinions about everything, and really, that's weird.
Did you see the meme of the virgin centrist versus the Chad centrist?
No, I did not.
The political compass?
yeah.
The virgin centrist has all their beliefs overlapped right near the center. The Chad centrist has all their beliefs in a big old ring around the entire thing. So they average out to in the center, but they're,
I guess I'm a Chad centrist.
Yes.
It's perfect. We're moving quickly into crony beliefs. But we gotta
Yes,
finish
we
this
are.
up.
Okay. I'll go. Do you want to do this one?
I would actually ask if we could take a tea break before we move on to the main subject.
Yeah, we'll do that before we move on to the main subject, but we'll push through this. Maybe overcoming bias doesn't look quite exciting enough if it's framed as a struggle against mere accidental mistakes. Maybe it's harder to get excited if there isn't some clear evil to oppose. So let us be absolutely clear where there is human evil in the world, where there is cruelty and torture and deliberate murder, there are biases enshrouding it. And, I mean, bullet point there, that's fucking tight.
Mm-hmm. This
Yeah.
is a really well-written, like, sort of manifesto of rationality.
Well, and yeah, exactly, of clear thinking and the virtues of it. Where people of clear sight oppose these biases, the concealed evil fights back. The truth does have enemies. If overcoming bias were a newsletter in the old Soviet Union, every poster and commenter of overcoming bias would have been shipped off to labor camps. In all human history, every great leap forward has been driven by a new clarity of thought. Except for a few natural catastrophes, every great woe has been driven by stupidity. Our last enemy is ourselves, and this is a war, and we are soldiers.
High five.
Fuck yeah!
And Ash is high-fiving us if you can't hear.
I even heard
felt
that
really
in the
good,
voice
though.
of Lawrence Fishburne from The Matrix.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
This
that makes
is
it
a
even
war,
better.
and we are soldiers.
I wonder how much we'd have to pay him to, like, do a reading of this.
Too much.
That's that's a good point.
we could-
Unless he's listening right now, Lawrence Fishburne.
Or anyone who sounds like Lawrence Fishburne and can do a good impression. We'll settle for that.
You know what? Like, the first time we have a celebrity endorse rationality, like, we're gonna blow up.
Should
Okay.
we wrap up the posts then?
Yeah.
I think we...
We got to mention that next time we're doing Doublethink, choosing to be biased. Why I'm Blooking, that is what it says. I double checked.
Yeah, it's a combination of blogging and booking.
All right. Well, I hate it. It's hard to say. And planning fallacy.
Yeah, and we're doing 3 because why I'm Blooking is very short and almost nothing.
Perfect.
It's like vlogging.
Yeah.
At least vlogging. I now know what it says. Blooking. It just sounds like they misspelled booking or looking.
Some things don't work very well as portmanteaus, and we just shouldn't. Or maybe we should, because they, like, vlogging is a hilarious word.
Portmanteauing things is tight.